We're jumping into it with this. Now, this weekend, obviously, biggest game of the week. Detroit Lions versus the Buffalo Bills. Huge game. Everybody expected fireworks, and fireworks we got as the Bills came out with a win. Josh Allen probably cemented the MVP, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Jeff Goff. Jared. I keep saying Jeff. I think this is the first time, I don't know that this is in the record books, but it's the first time that I recall hearing of a quarterback throwing over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and he lost. I just don't recall ever hearing that before. But anyway, what might actually end up being the bigger story, like the more season-defining story, is what has been a story for the Lions for a little while, only got worse. Injuries. The defensive side of their ball was already kind of decimated. Of course, it started a while back when Hutch got injured, out for the season. They're saying he might come back if they make it to the Super Bowl, but it's just not just been him. It's like they've been dropping like flies. And this game was no different. Like, Ryan, they lost a number of other players, like probably for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
What happened? Like, who'd they lose?
So they lost one of the running backs, Montgomery, to MCL. So he's out. They still have Gibbs, but basically each running back, I think Montgomery had 900 yards so far this season, and the running back 1,000. So they basically are splitting it with 2 backs. Then they lost the defensive tackle, McNeil, to an ACL, which during the game he knew he must have got injured pretty bad because he was the one during the game I was like getting real mad walking off the field and like holding his knee.
Yeah, he knew. You could just tell he knew.
Yeah.
Like he knew. He didn't need to have a doctor look at him. He just knew what was wrong.
And then they lost the cornerback Davis to a broken jaw, which he may come back, but he had surgery, but he may come back, they said, in the playoffs. And then the gruesome one was Dorsey, the cornerback that had his leg snapped and they had to bring out
the ankle.
Yeah, that one was really bad.
I still remember we were watching that game and nothing. Play ended, cut to commercial. And they come back from commercial and all you see is every player on the field, a cart, and like you can't see the player because there's medical staff there. And whenever I see that, I was telling Ryan, because Ryan was with us, like my stomach sinks.
Yeah, I dive up. I'm out.
Because I just think of these guys who like get serious injuries. Mm-hmm. Like, of course, a while back, the Buffalo Bills guy who had, the cardiac incident and stuff. But Harching, then as soon as I heard the guy say leg injury, like I knew, okay, you know what?
You ran to Twitter. No, I
want to see that.
They showed us right away. They're like, let's watch it again.
They showed the replay. But it's like, you know what I said to Ryan when we were watching? I said, his leg could be dangling like snapped in half. I still feel much better. Because that they can fix. Like when it's a spine thing or a neck
concussion,
or a head
neck,
or
any of that stuff.
That's the stuff that scares a lot. It was, then they did the replay and it not easy to look at.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, there were already question marks for Detroit who, I mean, simply this year has been a revelation for them. They followed up the great success last season, have been even better, dominant a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. But the questions have been mounting about, with all the problems, not problems, but all the injuries, I can't remember how many starters are down now. What is it, 7 or more?
Well, Hutchinson, they've also still been out with one of their DEs, Davenport, and one other linebacker. They've been out for most of the season also. So
and it's just
starters.
Like, the questions have been, is defense. And like this game, the Bills put up 48. Of course, it's the Bills offense. They're going to put up a lot of points, but still, they put up 48 points against them. And now with even more injuries, at the worst possible time, they're heading into the playoffs here in just a few weeks. Is the story of the Detroit Lions being legit Super Bowl contenders, given the ascent of the Bills getting better and better? The Eagles look great this weekend, playing a real tough test against the Steelers. I mean, is this story of Detroit being a legit Super Bowl contender, is that story now done? Is it just a story of, hey, great season, great year, something to build on for next year, but it's, Ryan, is it even realistic to think of them still Super Bowl contenders, or can they overcome this?
I think they can still overcome it. Another team not mentioned was the Vikings. They're right behind them.
Oh, yeah. Who have not let up.
They're, so right now they're still the Lions are the number 1 seed, but they can get passed by the Eagles or even the Vikings, depending what happens the rest of the season. There's always a chance. I mean, they're still putting up 45 points, right? Or however many points Goff is doing. But these teams that can score, like Buffalo, I guess the Eagles can at some of the games, or like KC back, if they get played like they should be playing. Can the Lions stop them enough to win the game or score more points than them, which they couldn't do against the Bills. They, like you were saying during the game, John, basically they're just marching down the field and scoring every time they have the ball.
At will.
There's no stopping them. So you have to get some kind of stop or a turnover or something because your defense isn't going to stop them from scoring regularly. So that's kind of what they're going to have to do for the rest of the season in the playoffs because none of these guys are coming back in time. I know you said Hutchinson maybe for the Super Bowl, but there's still 3 games left in the season and then the playoffs.
They lost another defensive lineman.
Yeah, so
They
I don't.
lost another defense.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, can they still win? Of course. Like the other team could have a real crap day. They could score 40 points and beat a team, but
The team bus might get an accident.
yeah.
on the way to
So
the
you
game.
know, the other team thinks the game's on Monday or something, but like with the Eagles or something, where a team that has a very good defense and a good offense, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to lean on Goff even more, and unfortunately, with Montgomery out, that's one less running back now too. So
By the way, I mentioned Goff throwing for over 400 and
it's almost 500, right?
Yeah.
4 touchdowns. Let me correct myself. He was 6 yards short of a 500-yard game. It was
Yeah.
494 yards and 5 touchdowns.
No interceptions.
No interceptions.
Yeah.
Tell me the last time you heard a quarterback throwing 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and they lost.
Yeah, shout out to those golf fantasy owners, though.
Oh
What a
my
week.
God.
Yeah.
How many points did he put up for people?
I don't know, all of them, but that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I've
Because you know, my wife had Jared had
Lamar, right?
had Josh Allen,
Oh,
and so
well.
like she counted his points. But what kind of points did Goff get?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dear heavens.
I've never seen the like.
Matt, is it foolish at this point to put your money on Detroit winning the Super Bowl, or do
Right
you still think
now-
there's enough?
Right now, it would be a little bit of a risky one, I think. Just because, well, there's not, looking at the NFC, there's Philadelphia, like Vikings, like you're saying, and then it's kind of like the couple that are just scrappy. So
Right.
Tampa Bay and LA.
Tampa Bay big win this weekend too.
Huge
Yeah.
win,
Yeah.
but we've been saying for forever, the whole season so far, they play hard as shit all the time. They're in every game, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but but they've been able to maintain, and also throwing 5 touchdowns, no picks. He's doing all right. I think that they could do it. It's just
Yeah.
The Rams would
be
be an
rough.
interesting matchup because the Rams are interesting because they went from putting up 44 against Buffalo and winning. We were at that game. We went to SoFi Stadium and watched that game. The Rams offense looked unstoppable. Like they scored
kinda like this
on-
game.
They scored
Right.
on like their first 5 possessions. They scored or something like it was something
Yeah.
crazy like that. Then they play San Francisco and don't get a touchdown the entire game. They win like what was the first game
12
all year that didn't
12 to
have
9
a
or whatever?
touchdown. They
Yeah.
won
Something
12
like
to
that.
9.
Yeah.
So who knows what you're going to get with the Rams, but there's a lot of teams that if Detroit runs into, they could be in trouble.
And the
Yeah.
Rams played them close in the playoffs last year, and then the first game of the season, it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Also, I looked up the fantasy numbers. Goff had 50 points.
yeah.
50.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's a week winner by himself, pretty much.
Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Detroit has now gone down another 3 guys on top of the already mounting huge list of injury woes that they've had. I mean, it's kind of spoiling what has been an absolutely remarkable season for them. Can they pull it together? Can they keep this thing rolling and be kind of like a old New England Patriot mantra of next man up and just make it happen? Whatever you guys think, do us a favor, jump down into our comment section below and let us know your thoughts.